Good evening, everybody out there. We're back again for our 5 o'clock Curlin Community Countdown with a special guest tonight. We do always have a fun Friday, and this fun Friday we have Andy DeFusco, who's going to be joining us from Munns Park, a secret cabin location up there. He is a classy guy. Him and his wife have DeFusco Law. He's been serving since about 1995, I think it is, when he started out, and then in 2002 he went into this particular practice. He is a all-around great guy, and he's here to answer all of our questions about the legal field in before and post COVID-19. So everybody, please say hi to Andy DeFusco. Hi, Andy.
Such kind words. Goes to show you bribery will get you everything. How you doing, Eric?
I am so good, so good. Hey, I really enjoy you and your wife personally, but professionally even more so. I have been privy to the fact that you and your wife and your firm have been really great community partners with our schools, and that's something that I hold dear to my heart. But let's start it off by just saying that if anybody would like to ask any questions, Andy's going to try his best to answer those. He's more in the personal injury realm of law, but he has an ASU graduate, so we know that Sparky can do anything. By him participating in this, it's about a community again. He's not endorsing my campaign in any way, but coming here as an individual to just help out the community conversation, break up the monotony, and kind of put down some knowledge on us all. So put in your questions in there. We'll try to ask them. Andy, tell us right off the bat about the program you have to do these stipends for supplies for different teachers in the district.
Absolutely. Well, my wife and I started up our law practice. It's been about 4.5 years now. And we're both products of public school education. As you may know, she went to North High School in Phoenix. I was a graduate of Saguaro High School in Scottsdale. I won't tell you the year, but quite a ways ago, long time ago. And our kids are in Scottsdale public schools, one in 5th grade and one in 7th grade. Bryn sits on the board of directors for Arizona Center for the Public Interest, which is Arizona's premier advocate for public school education. And so we have tried to donate to Scottsdale Unified School District over the last couple of years. We provide teacher stipends. It's amazing how a small donation can go a long way for classroom supplies. You being a school teacher, you know that, where a lot of these teachers are just expected to pay for classroom supplies out of their pocket. And so we've made some donations there. We've made some donations directly to certain schools in the Scottsdale Unified School District. And we're big supporters of public school education. It's important for both of us.
Yeah, so I want to just kind of say on behalf of a lot of those people that received that and those people that have had that kind of secondary effect, thank you and your wife so very much for your philanthropy, excuse me. That's a tough word for me. Philanthropy. And it doesn't stop. Okay. I mean, but really, so I have helped kind of advertise this, and I've heard back from people who have gotten these rewards, and they're just so overwhelmed. People don't really understand how much money a teacher spends out of their own pocket to try to create a nurturing and loving environment for learning. And to have somebody like you and your wife kind of see that, help out, it really makes a difference. So thanks very much. Hey, let's go on to DeFusco Law. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we've gotten some great responses from the teachers. We've gotten thank you notes from the students, each one writing about what the supplies did for them and how it helped them in the classroom setting. And notes that were so touching, it just brought a lump to my throat and tears to my eyes. Just amazing feedback from some of the teachers and the students themselves. And we're really grateful when we receive this. So.
Yeah, and you guys basically have some major blowouts over there at your house for the different schools when it comes time for the end of the year. I know you kind of have the Sequoia blowout and, the Cocoa Pa kind of soiree. So it's not just supplies. You supply the hooch and the food too, right?
We do our best, Eric. We do our best.
Okay, so why don't you tell me about your practice? Kind of talk us through what the DeFusco Law specializes in.
Well, I had a previous law practice in Scottsdale for about 21 years. And then in January of 2016, my wife and I started DeFusco Law. I tell people it's right at Agua Caliente at 69th and Shea. If you're standing at Ajoel's and take about 50 paces to the southwest, you'll run into our front door. And we represent people who have suffered serious injuries due to the negligence of others, or surviving family members of those who have suffered fatal injuries, again, due to the negligence of others. And we have the type of practice where it's a low volume practice. It's primarily referral based, which means that folks come to us not because of any active advertising, which we don't engage in, but they come to us because generally they've been referred by somebody. It's usually, oftentimes lawyers, but it's usually contacts in the community, present or former clients that we've had, people who know us and who know the type of work that we do. We have a bit of a presence on social media, primarily Facebook and LinkedIn, but it is, for the most part, it's about as close as you can come to having a small town practice in the big city, is the way I like to describe it.
Fantastic. And that's the way to go. If you're getting referrals from people that you've served and from other people you've worked with, you know that you're doing the right thing. So fantastic. We have a question coming in here from Michael. He wants to know if you ever review insurance policies.
all the time. Typically, a lot of our work are folks who have been injured in motor vehicle collisions involving, it could be a commercial vehicle, it could be a private passenger automobile. We represent motorcyclists, we represent people who have been injured by drunk drivers. And one of the first things that I do is I'll look at a client's auto insurance coverages, the declarations page, and I'll give them advice, not from an agent standpoint, but from a lawyer standpoint, because we've seen the carnage. We've seen when people are grossly underinsured, when they should have had more coverage. And we make recommendations as to what types of coverages that we feel that they should have and how to get the best bang for their insurance premium dollars. Ultimately, it's a conversation that people have to have with their insurance agent. But we spend a lot of time counseling clients and other people about their insurance coverages and make recommendations that they hopefully, we generally meet the folks when they've had the worst day of their lives, but hopefully if people plan appropriately, if that bad day does come, they're going to be well insured.
Yeah, and with all the lawyer jokes out there, I have to say that you and your wife are kind of a different set of people. You actually are lawyers with a soul and a conscience. So, I mean, those two things, right? They don't fit into the joke kind of lawyer thing, but you guys are the real deal, and I really appreciate it. We got the questions coming in fast and furious, so I'm just going to get to those, all right? I got some of my own. I do want to ask you one of my own first, since it is my show and it's Fun Friday. I do want to know kind of if you're open right now and how you're doing with the whole COVID thing.
We have one paralegal. She's been with us now, well, with me for almost 10 years, with us since the beginning here with DeFusco Law. And about 5 weeks ago, we sat down and I said, I want you to work from home for as long as it takes. And so she's working from home. We're holding client meetings, both new client meetings and existing client meetings, as well as meetings with opposing counsel, expert witnesses, et cetera. It's all done by video conference or over the telephone. And we're just doing our part during the pandemic here. And hopefully at some point in the future, things will get a lot better and we'll be able to start meeting with people in person.
Yeah, well,
So yes, we're still open. Yes, we just have
No, I mean, you guys adapting and taking care of your employee and taking care of your clients, that's just kind of more of your conscience, and I appreciate that as well. We have a we have a question coming in from Brehan. She's asking if a patient can sue a physician if they think they've contracted coronavirus from them. Interesting.
Boy, there's always such a big difference between what the law says you can or cannot do and whether you should actually do it. People are actually surprised when I tell them how much time I spend with folks trying to convince them not to file a claim and not to file a lawsuit, because oftentimes people think they have a viable case and we believe otherwise. And we're doing them a service by explaining to them why they should not pursue litigation. To answer your question, as you may know, Governor Ducey just passed an executive order which provides immunity to healthcare workers who are treating victims of COVID-19. And so the short answer to that is, oh, my phone just went off. The short answer to that is, in principle, I very much agree with the governor's executive order. These are people who are on the front lines, the doctors, the nurses, the other healthcare professionals who are risking their health and their lives to take care of COVID patients. and I don't think any lawyer should be suing them. With that said, I'm not a fan of how the governor went about this, because in order to provide any person with immunity from liability, well, that, as you know, that requires an act of the state legislature, both the House and the Senate. And so I would have preferred that it had been handled in that regard. But if you're asking me personally and professionally, do I think anybody should be suing a healthcare provider under those circumstances? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, immunity is kind of a tricky little kind of concept, right? I think where we have immunity when it comes to like the Good Samaritan law, people that kind of stop by the roadside if somebody's injured, try to help, that's one thing. But if you're a professional and I mean, the coronavirus could encompass a lot of things where perhaps people were negligent where they should be found negligent anyway. So interesting question. I love the fact that you actually talk people out of suing when there is no case. Again, that's showing your corporate kind of soul right in there.
Well, this may sound counterintuitive, but sometimes folks ask me, well, are there frivolous lawsuits out there? Yeah, there were some. I don't think there are as many as people think there are. But I often tell folks the best way to limit frivolous lawsuits is to have competent plaintiff's attorneys, because a competent plaintiff's attorney is not going to file a frivolous lawsuit. For one, they're going to be spinning their wheels for several years litigating a case that they're not going to make any money on, and they're not going to be able to give any compensation for their client. So when you have competent plaintiff's attorneys, they are very good at knowing which cases to file and which cases should never be filed. And when you file a lawsuit, it's not like you file a lawsuit and the insurance company just opens up their pocket and pays. What happens is the insurance company will provide counsel for the defendant who's being sued, oftentimes very competent defense counsel. And if the case does not have merit, they'll defend it tooth and nail. Sometimes they can get a case tossed on summary judgment, which means it never sees the inside of a courtroom. And other times, if the case doesn't have merit and it makes it to a jury trial, the jury, especially in a fairly conservative locale, Maricopa County, is going to see right through that. So again, I'm a big believer that if we want to limit frivolous litigation, the best way of doing that is to have competent plaintiff's attorneys.
So basically, you could have the best suit, you could have the best argument, you could have an airtight thing, but if you don't have a good lawyer, you could be losing on a technicality anyway. Am I right?
Well, you need good facts and you need the law.
Yeah.
And if good lawyers can recognize when there are good facts and there are strong arguments, again, I practice civil law. I don't practice criminal defense law. But a good lawyer can recognize when there's a very compelling case of liability and can evaluate the damages and can actually explain the damages in the way that the client gets the compensation that they deserve. So to answer your question, yeah, it helps to have good facts, and it certainly helps to have the law on your side.
Okay, yeah, no, go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, most of the work that we do is negligence litigation, where we have to prove that the defendant was negligent in causing our client to suffer a significant injury, and then to prove the extent of the damages.
Okay, we're here with Andy DeFusco from DeFusco Law. He has a wonderful practice with his wife in Scottsdale by Ajo Owls, apparently. And he's here to answer your questions. So type those in. I'm going to get to a few more of the ones we have here, but there's one kind of going along with the governor's statement and removing liability. What about as we start to reopen the economy? What kind of liability should a business have if a customer can prove that they contracted the virus, like in a hair salon or something? We start to reopen the economy, people start getting sick, there isn't the correct social distancing or practices in place that they should have. What kind of liability does a business have there?
Boy, you raise some interesting questions and things that, as always, legislation and the litigation of these types of issues generally lags behind what's happening in the real world. We have not had something like this in 102 years since the Spanish flu pandemic back in, I think it was 1918, long before your time, long before my time. And you raised some interesting questions. I can envision a situation where the state legislature may pass some additional laws limiting the liability of individuals or entities under certain circumstances as it relates to COVID-19. Because for the most part, what we're dealing with here is unprecedented, at least in our lifetimes. But again, I would expect that you're going to see some type of legislation coming out of the State House and Senate sometime next session.
Yeah, and I imagine we might be seeing some lawsuits that kind of go along with this to force that action, huh?
I don't doubt that.
Yeah. Okay, so Brad, firefighter Brad says hi. He wants to know about, if people should be thinking about addressing anything legally while they're kind of in their home. Is there something that people should be thinking about?
Well, firefighter Brad, for starters, thank you for your service. We're grateful to you. A lot of people have idle time these days. Perhaps we're all busy in some ways, but we're not on our regular routines. And so it's a good time to look at a few things. I always tell clients, it's always a good time, as much as it sounds like dealing with death and taxes, it's always a good time to take a look at your auto insurance, your homeowners or your rental insurance coverage, and then whether or not you're a candidate for an umbrella insurance policy. This is a really good time to look at your insurance coverages and to talk to somebody like us or talk to another lawyer, and definitely talk to your insurance agent. Sometimes folks think, we've had several inquiries of people saying, well, I'm not driving that much, I'm not leaving the house that much, why should I be paying all this money for insurance premiums? And the problem with that is that insurance, let's just deal with auto insurance, it provides several benefits. Liability insurance coverage is there to protect us if we get sued because our driving injures somebody else on the roadway. But there's other coverages like uninsured and underinsured motorist coverages. I tell folks these are very valuable coverages. You can see it on our website at DeFuscoLaw.com. These are coverages that will protect you when the responsible motorist doesn't have any insurance or doesn't have enough insurance to to compensate you for your damages. And oftentimes people who are pedestrians or who are riding a bicycle and who get injured by a motorist who doesn't have enough insurance can still be compensated if they have underinsured motorist coverage, even though they were not driving a motor vehicle at the time. So it's a really good time to take a look at your insurance coverages while the risk activity is less right now, because it's not going to be like this for very long.
Yeah, that kind of takes us into Shelley's question when she's asking kind of, how do I know how much insurance I need?
Mm-hmm. Well,
how do people know?
What I don't do is I don't ever tell folks you need this amount of coverage, you need that amount of coverage, because everybody's different. People have to look at what their risk tolerances are. They have to look at the type of risk that they face every day. They have to look at what they have in assets or what they may have in assets at some point in the future. The problem, though, is that a lot of folks don't understand the insurance coverages that they have. I mean, if you and I are golfing and I swing a 9-iron and I fail to notice that you're standing behind me and you catch the hosel of the club in your cheek and I break your facial bones here and you make a claim against me, I have coverage under my homeowner's insurance policy because I have liability coverage there. And a lot of people
swing away, Andy, swing away.
Absolutely. Don't ever play golf with me, Eric.
Or
So that's an issue, is folks oftentimes don't understand the coverages, the insurance coverages that they've purchased. And we do spend a lot of time with clients talking about insurance coverages. Hopefully it's the one of the rare products you buy, you spend money on, that you hope you never have to use.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like betting against something you don't want to bet on.
Yes.
Gene asks, how do you handle an Arizona resident who has an accident that happens to happen out of state? Let's say you're over in California going over to Disneyland because no one's there, and then boom, you have an accident. How do you handle that?
Mm-hmm. Typically, folks who have a collision that occurs in another state, typically, not always, would best be served by having a lawyer work with them who's licensed to practice law in that state. Our practice, we represent people from all over the country, but typically the traumatic act, the collision, I call them collisions, not accidents, because an accident implies that it just happened and nobody is at fault. And oftentimes somebody was negligent, which caused a collision to occur. But when they happen in the state of Arizona, those are the folks that we represent. Sometimes the collision can happen in another state, but the person is using benefits under their Arizona policy, like uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage. And in that type of a situation, especially when they receive most or all of their treatment here in the state of Arizona, we oftentimes represent those folks as well.
Okay. We have another question from Julie Sanowski, and I don't think we're going to get to it because you are up in Munns Park, and she wants you to play your favorite tune on the piano, which I think it just kind of goes in. Andy is a musician as well as a lawyer and has a room set up where he kind of leads people in song. I remember a little bit of Elton John the other day, about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, well, I'm recovering from carpal tunnel surgery here, and so that's got to get better. But as I like to say, I'm a hacker on the piano. I play for people who've been drinking beer or red wine. So, but thank you, Julie.
Hey, so going along with there's no accidents, they're just collisions. I was at Sprouts about a month and a half ago getting my gummy bears, right? I got a fix that I have to kind of get done. They have the best 12 flavor gummy bears. You heard it here first.
Bryn's cracking up, by the way, Eric.
She knows the gummy bears, right?
No, she's laughing at you. With you.
Okay, there's nothing to laugh at. These are the hands down the best gummy bears. They're 12 flavors. You get them out of the bulk. Don't get the ones that are already prepackaged. Anyway, so I'm getting my fix, right? And I come out to my car and I see the back rear panel has been damaged. It's been scraped. And I see this, this white, it's like this sinking feeling. Someone has invaded my space and defiled my automobile. And I look immediately around, there's nobody there. I look to my windshield thinking, oh, the Good Samaritan that, maybe put a note, nothing. But then I look over and I see my paint is on this guy's front bumper. And his paint is on my, it's kind of like, you got your chocolate in my peanut butter. You got your peanut butter in my chocolate. I mean, all the signs are there. Old man comes out. It's a handicap license plate. And I'm like, oh, he just wanted to get his gummy bears too and didn't want to wait around for me. That's cool. He's about 95. No problem. He comes over. I'm like, hey, fella, we got a problem. You hit my car. He's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, no, yeah, look. It's like, no, I'm a good driver. I mean, straight out of Rain Man. Gets in his car and bolts. Well, meanwhile, I've taken a picture of his license plate. I've taken a picture of all the damage. Police come after about 4 hours, and the guy's like, hey, I can't do anything unless he's a Scottsdale resident. He goes, do you have his plate? And I said, sure as enough. I got it. He goes over to the old folks home on Cactus. The guy's there. He goes through the whole thing again and says, hey, I didn't hit him. I mean, come on. So the guy gives me his insurance stuff, go through the insurance. I'm sorry for anybody who's getting bored out there, but this is my show. I gave you the hint on the gummy bears, and I have to get things done right now. So let's just say the insurance company of his, USAA, says, oh, we believe our client. We're not paying anything, even after the pictures. So basically, I have the $500 deductible. How likely is my insurance company going to go after that $500 deductible when they only had to pay me $130? It was $630 total. I am out $500 because that guy had to get his gummy bears from the old folks home.
Well, the good news is your insurance premium will not go up under that example, by the way, as you probably know. It's a business decision. Sometimes insurance companies, you're talking about a subrogation claim where they take care of your own property damage and then they pursue reimbursement from the responsible drivers or their insurance company. It's a business decision. Are they going to go after that person for $630? Probably not. It's not worth it for the insurance company to hire counsel to pursue that.
Well, if I could just say, if anybody would like to go to curlin23.com and make a donation to the campaign, it would make me feel better because I'm out $500.
Get your bumper fixed.
Yeah, I got it fixed. Anyway, that was just a joke, folks. George wants to follow up on his accident. So he's in Massachusetts. Should he get an attorney over in Massachusetts?
Did the collision occur in Massachusetts?
Yeah, that's what he says.
Assume so, yes.
Yeah.
I think he should get an attorney in Massachusetts. Every state has different laws regarding insurance coverages, regarding the law of negligence, regarding things like comparative fault, regarding what damages you can and cannot seek. Every state is different. So if the collision happened there, yes, he should get an attorney there if he needs an attorney.
Sure. And actually, he's got two first names, Gene George. Should we tell him he should get rid of one of those first names? George, you have one too many Genes. Gene George. Okay, Shelly wants to know. Talk to her about teenage drivers. Okay, what should parents do to protect themselves when these nuts get on the road?
Oh boy, this is the panic call I get several times a year from it's usually the dad. It's not too often the mom, where their kid's getting ready to turn 16. And I said, let me guess, you're concerned about insurance coverage and your premiums going up. And what do you do? Because young people are notoriously bad drivers, especially the young men, as we all know. I'm giving a presentation for the City of Scottsdale Mustang Library in September, and it's called "I Love My Children," but it's all about how parents can best protect themselves from financial exposure, from legal liability for the conduct of their children. And one of those situations is having teenage drivers. And can mom and dad be responsible for their conduct? And the answer is, under certain circumstances, yes.
Ooh.
Arizona has something called the family purpose doctrine. So if the child is driving a family vehicle for a family purpose, which has been broadly defined by the courts here in Arizona, mom and dad can be responsible, not just their insurance, but if the damages are very large, if the person was badly hurt, mom and dad can actually be on the hook for those damages above and beyond whatever insurance coverage they have. And so the idea is mom and dad, during those critical years where they have teenage drivers, should carry significant limits of liability insurance coverage under their auto policies.
Okay.
That's really the only way to protect, unless you have really deep pockets, and most of us don't.
Okay, we just have a couple of minutes left. Can we please see Bryn so that everybody knows who the other half of your law firm is?
Yeah, she's right here. She can hear everything you said. She just didn't want to look at that bright shirt you're wearing today.
Put your face on the camera, woman.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Never better, Bryn.
Well,
Hey.
good to see you.
Yeah, now that I got both of you here, now comes the fun part of Fun Friday. I want you to tell me 3 things you have in your refrigerator right now, because this is your cabin in Munns Park. I want to know how the DeFuscos party.
How we party or how we eat?
That's what I call partying.
3 things that we have in our refrigerator.
Oh, jelly.
Jelly.
Peanut butter and jelly.
We have
Yeah,
peanut
important.
butter, jelly, bread, eggs.
Beer. A little bit of
We
beer
have
in there.
beer. We're pretty
Wine?
boring.
Okay. Tell me one thing about Andy that he doesn't like that it seems like everybody else in the world does.
That he doesn't like. Oh my gosh. He is.
Be careful here. You don't want to sleep on the couch tonight.
Oh, right. He's not a huge fan of texting. If you pick up his cell phone, he has like 93 unread text messages. And so invariably what happens is when one of his family members, and he doesn't really like to talk on the phone much either. So here's what happens.
But that's how I got the carpal tunnels, all that text.
Right. So when one of his or our family members needs to get a hold of him, they'll text, they'll call, and I can see it, on his phone. And I'll say, 10 seconds, here it goes. And then they start calling me because I actually respond to people. So he's not.
Oh, I know. You respond right away.
I do. I don't like to leave people hanging. So he's just not a great texter. But
But you did
really?
teach me how to use the microphone now, so I'm getting better at it.
I did. That really is my only complaint about him. He's pretty awesome.
Can you tell us about a time that Andy, and I'm going to try to make him turn red, about a wonderful bit of romance? What did Andy do to sweep you off your feet? Because you're a good-looking woman, let's face it.
Aww.
And Andy, Andy's a nice guy, but he is well above his pay grade with you.
You already.
I married up.
You sure did.
I know
So
I did.
he's actually really romantic, and it's something that just comes to my mind right away, and a few friends can vouch for this. On my birthday, my amazing sister-in-law Laura planned a happy hour for me with a bunch of my friends, and it was just my girlfriends, not couples. And Andy showed up kind of towards the end in a tuxedo with a dozen roses to give to me in front of all my girlfriends, of course. He knew exactly what he was doing. So that's a very recent thing that he did. But he always remembers our anniversary.
Yeah, I just wanted to be the rooster, and the wives, I was their hero. All the husbands hated me.
Yeah,
and
you said.
also, here's another thing that he did last year for Mother's Day, Andy gave me 2 books that he had been preparing and working on for about 6 years. And they are little vignettes and stories of our children that he had been saving and compiling along with pictures for 6 years.
She thought I was
And
working the whole time.
And
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
they are
That
amazing.
right there is worth the price of admission. You're making us all look bad.
I'll show it to you. And there's 2 volumes. I think there's 600 stories all together, and they have pictures that accompany them. And sometimes it's emails from teachers, funny stories about our kids, a lot of really funny stories about Jake, funny to other people, not so funny to Andy and me all the time.
You lay off of Jake. I love that Jake.
Well, we love him too.
Yeah, he loves you too, Eric.
Hey, let me finish up with the both of you here and just say, you do a lot for the community. What kind of free services are you doing for the community, like in and around? I know you just mentioned that thing at the Mustang Library. Give us a rundown real quick.
Well, Andy presents fairly often. We presented for Not My Kid, a very similar seminar not too long ago, and he'll be doing that again in September. I'll try to be there with him. Obviously, the teacher
My hair will be cut by
stipends.
then. Yeah.
The teacher's stipends. And I think Andy touched on this, looking over deck pages. I don't even like looking over our deck pages, but that is another service that we do provide to our clients and, friends and people who have questions about their insurance coverage. That's another thing that we try to help people with if they have questions about insurance coverage, because it's boring. We get it, but it's also really important. And so that's another service that we provide.
We have a number of our blogs on our website at
Yes.
DeFuscoLaw.com. It's all original content.
Yeah,
we write everything.
DeFuscoLaw.com.
And
Yes.
it explains.
We have to get that out there again.
And our
DeFuscoLaw.com.
We also
Yeah,
have we also have
Sorry.
a monthly newsletter. And I'll throw those links up there for the blogs and the newsletters. We provide those obviously for free as well.
Awesome. And we have a couple more questions that Bryn, you can kind of, Andy's going to post the links and you can answer a few more questions online. And then just the last question. I have a serious aversion to water chestnuts. I always ask for them to be held out of my Chinese food.
You have
What
aversions
happened?
to so many foods.
What can I do when one of those son of a guns gets into my food and I crunch down on that thing like nails on a chalkboard? Can I hold somebody accountable?
No.
All right.
Well, I did.
Well, did it break your tooth?
It broke my spirit. All right, look.
I have to say, given the current environment, stay home, Eric.
Yeah. All right, look, we love you guys. Thank you so much for being on the program. It's DeFuscoLaw.com. They do great things for the community. They are lawyers with a soul and some compassion. You don't get that too often. And thank you so much. Enjoy your time in Munns Park and stay safe.
Thanks,
Will do.
Eric.
Will
Thank
do, you
you.
too.
Okay, we got to dance off now. You got to dance.